Two of the title chasers are heading for the sun for their weekend off, but how are the fans feeling about the race to the finish line? Hello, I'm Charlotte Cohen and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Wednesday the 15th of April. Celtic have a Scottish Cup semi-final this weekend. Will this be a help or a hindrance for their title bid?
Up comes Atati, right-footed, saved, the rebound, saved as well, but it's forced in! Celtic are the equaliser at the third time of asking.
Which set of fans is feeling the heat? And where does momentum now lie after another weekend of twists and turns?
Another goal for Rangers, and it's Bojan Majowski with his second of the game as well.
And he's squeezed it in. Pierre Landry de Bore seals the points for Hearts.
Oxley Chamberlain who scores. No flag this time.
Can any of these three teams win all of their games? And when will the title be decided?
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Once again, we are getting the fans' view this morning. So we've gathered together once again a supporter of each of the top three clubs battling it out. At the top of the top flight, Paul John Dykes from A Celtic State of Mind, Liam Corbett from Hearts This Is My Story podcast, and Scott Cameron of the Rangers Journal podcast. Right, we'll start with you, Paul. Usual start, 30 seconds to sum up what the story around Celtic has been in the last 7 days and how you feel right now.
The Green Brigade returned for the first time in 5 months. The atmosphere was great and the performance in the first 20 or 25 minutes mirrored the performance of the fans. After that, it was pretty uninspiring and perspiring, and we eked out another 1-0 win.
Oh, nice. I was like half the time. Scott, come to you next. Sum up what has happened at Rangers in the last week in 30 seconds.
Rangers have kept the momentum going, played last at the weekend and reacted to a difficult situation when we were 2-0 down. So momentum and belief is growing by the game, and we're ready for the last 5 matches.
Again, look, you've smashed 15 seconds, you've smashed that. Finally, Liam, sum up what's been going on at Hearts in the last 7 days.
History makers, the first team outside the old firm to be top of the league going into the split. A very encouraging, gutsy performance at home to a very good team when it looked like we could potentially buckle again with the pressure. So we're all rosy again. We're all back on the title roller coaster.
Perfect. All of you did that in less than 30 seconds. So we're off to a good start. But let's talk about the weekend then, because Liam, I'm wondering what you think about this. Do you think momentum is back with Hearts, even though Rangers came from behind to win that game on Sunday?
I think all three teams probably looked at the other team's results at points and got some confidence from it. I don't think, although very impressive to come back and win, there were factors in the game where I think even Rangers fans were probably concerned with some of the stuff that they saw, happy with other things it seemed. Same at Tynecastle, there were bits where Hearts were really good and really happy with what we're seeing and been able to dig it out, but very, very lucky with some of not lucky, the manager will go mental, as for saying lucky. We're happy that Motherwell never took their chances and had bad play. And Celtic had a very fast start, and you've seen the goal coming through and thinking, looks like they're going to kick on, and then stuttered towards the end. They're just less convincing than probably what they would have wanted to be. So I think all three teams probably get a bit of confidence. I think Celtic be happy to have a game again. We can. Anybody that knows football, winning football matches breeds confidence. If you can win football matches, playing well and scoring goals, great. But when you're trying to build momentum, playing is really important, and Hearts have played, I think we played 2 games in March. We were only going to play 3 games in April. We've got another 2-week break after just coming off a 2-week break there. Momentum's going to be huge right now, so I would swap to be playing this weekend 100%. So I think that all teams are probably more confident than they were last week.
I mean, Scott, how are you feeling about it? Because I imagine at one point on Sunday, it kind of looked like things were maybe done for Rangers.
Yeah, I was saying that before we went live, that sitting inside the stadium at 2-0 down, I was questioning my content for this episode. Obviously, it worked out in the end, but I think Liam's spot on. It was very much a typical Rangers performance, and you don't know what you're going to get from game half to half, never mind from game to game. And I think it just continued what has been a crazy season, but we're back in with it. I would ideally like to see us having a game this weekend. The stop-start nature of it, it does worry me that the momentum that we are building with lots of goals and some positive performances, I hope that the break, Rangers have tradition of breaks in January when we used to go to Dubai that curtail their season. I'm hoping that the trip to Spain doesn't have this a similar effect, but we'll just have to wait and see. But it was a positive outcome in the end on Sunday.
I suppose, Paul, from a Celtic point of view, Celtic are potentially the one of these three teams who the fans maybe don't want to watch playing football at the moment.
Well, the style's not been there. It really has not been an enjoyable watch. Scott mentioned Dubai. I still get flashbacks about that COVID season when we went to Dubai. Things were never quite the same again. But, I mean, when I'm looking at this weekend's game in the Cup, and I remember this happened a few seasons back where we met a really high-flying Aberdeen team and we managed to score a few goals. This is a big problem Celtic are facing at the moment. We're creating chances. But the biggest issue and the biggest worry for me at the weekend was that Hearts and particularly Rangers seem to be, getting in amongst the goals. We're just not doing that. We don't have an out-and-out striker. And I'm hoping that this weekend we can kind of break that and get out of that lane, because it's almost as if we're playing with a bit of fear, which is bizarre. I said this last week. A little bit of fear getting played within the team, which I find difficult to accept when you look at the amount of success we've had. We should have more self-belief. The momentum, I agree with the guys. I think that the game this weekend is going to be quite important for Celtic. And apparently we're organising a bounce game as well to try and get some of the injured players back in. So I'm glad we've got a game. I'm glad we've still got that cup, because, by the end of the season, it's maybe something to cling on to, depending on how the league form goes.
Yeah, I wonder, Scott and Liam, what you guys make of Rangers and Hearts not having a cup games to look forward to. Because on the one hand, it's full focus on the league, no distractions. You can get away for a week and really get the team together. On the other hand, no cup run. I'm wondering what the two of you from a Hearts and Rangers perspective make of that.
Well, I think that from a Hearts perspective, this week, I spoke to the manager after the game on Saturday, and he talked about the importance of how, the injuries are disruptive and have been disruptive to all three teams. But I think football fans, sometimes we look at the Saturday impact of injuries and having them not available for the 90 minutes. But actually, the knock-on impact of the players not being there is training's different, sessions are different. And he spoke, when I talked to him after the game, largely about the fact that, Devlin, Shankland, Benny, these guys aren't playing in every session. So, you're maybe having a warm down session on a Monday, they maybe join for bits of shape on Tuesday, Wednesdays. So, us not having a game, from the positive perspective, is that actually everybody is away to Spain. So, whether you're injured or not, they're taking the opportunity to take everybody to Spain this week. And there's no press going. It is literally just a sort of get your fitness back, team bonding, get everybody together. So from a impact and disruption perspective, injuries played a massive part for that, for all three teams, and it does have a knock-on effect on a Saturday. But we would all love to be involved in the cup. We not celebrate. Obviously, you don't celebrate going out the cup, but when you go out the cup like we did talk about, that means that we're only playing Saturday, so it gives us an advantage. But right now, I think every team that wins on a Saturday would love to bounce into another game as quickly as they possibly can to keep momentum going. Because again, Celtic, although as they've said, they weren't hugely convinced on Saturday, they then go and win on Saturday again or Sunday this weekend, and then they're bouncing into the split, 2 games, 3 wins in a row. Like Rangers, 4 games in a row they've won, bouncing into the split. So momentum's huge. So from that perspective, I would have much preferred to be playing this week, but I can understand why the manager's taking it as a positive thing, that it gives them that opportunity to get everybody back and refocused for what will be the 5 biggest games, probably all these players' careers.
I think from a Rangers point of view, Charlotte, I agree with Liam. I think Danny Rule will want to get Mikey Moore. He's been carrying an injury for a number of weeks. I don't think has been training. It's shown in his performance. I think it'll be a good opportunity to get him. Tor Romans. A lot of players, I think, are carrying niggles at this stage of the season. So the momentum of winning games of football and going to Hampden on Saturday or Sunday and winning would be great to keep that momentum going. But I think the sort of camaraderie and the bonding and the ability to get a bit of warm weather training whilst getting players back to fitness, I think will outweigh not playing at the weekend. So I think it's, from a fan's point of view, I'd rather be playing this weekend. But I think from the players and the manager's point of view, I think he'll be quite happy to get everybody back, get everybody fit and ready for the last 5 matches.
I wonder, Paul, I have seen a lot of Celtic fans saying the team look uncoached and look like they maybe don't really know what they're supposed to be doing. I wonder if, from that point of view, you maybe think Celtic could have done with a week to just get the heads down and work on things.
Yeah, I've seen that as well, Charlotte. And I mean, one of the big issues with that argument is that you're coming up against teams that are very well drilled, very well organised. You know, even the teams down the bottom of the league, their defensive shape is excellent. They're working on it all week, and they're sometimes difficult to break down. Once you get a 2-goal cushion, which we've not had that often this season, you know, we can break them down from that point. But Celtic are playing like a team that have had 3 managers. You know, we really are. I said this to the boys, to Liam the other night, and I also said to Liam, I've spent more time with you, Liam, as a Hearts fan than any other Hearts fan in my life in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Long may that continue. But with regards to the way that we are playing, the uncoached thing, it's maybe a wee bit unfair on Maloney, Fotheringham and O'Neill, because it's been such a dysfunctional season. We've had 3 managers, one of which came in twice. You know, we've had a few players in this squad at the moment who came to the end of their cycle in the summer, and we weren't at that point where we could replace them. So they're now playing and they're running on fumes. You know, you look at Maida compared to last season, different player entirely. And we have all the hallmarks of a team that absolutely needs torn up and rebuilt in the summer. And I just hope that we do have enough of those fumes to get us over the line this season. But the uncoached thing, a little bit harsh, I think, because they'll be working on it all week. They'll be doing the opposition analysis with the data analytics. But it's a result of everything that's happened this season, I believe. And the players are playing with a bit of fear. I wish it was more free-flowing, because that's what we've become accustomed to with Celtic. Uncoached, Martin O'Neill hopefully will have the last laugh on that one.
Here's a question then, and I'm intrigued to know what Scott and Liam think on this as well. Do you think Celtic played their best football this season under Wilfred Nancy? Take out the defending part of it and how terrible that was, but the actual football, attacking, free-flowing football, was that the best that Celtic have played this season, do you think?
Controversial.
It's an interesting one. That to be honest, I would happily take Wilfred Nancy back now.
Of course you would.
For the last 5 matches. So I think that, looking at it from the outside, I think if Celtic had kept Martin O'Neill in charge at the point, we would maybe be sitting here having a different conversation. But I don't. It is very much just about winning at this stage of the season. So I wouldn't say. I think there was a lot of faults in the Wilfred Nancy approach, and the results basically backed that up. So if Celtic want to change manager back to Wilfred Nancy for the last 5 games, myself and the Rangers support will be quite happy with that.
It is funny when you look from the outside looking in, because we're all football fans and we'll all have managers where we know what we're talking about here, but Celtic just look like that team it's just like Paul said, they know that the managers know they are next year. They've been through 3 different managers. They just looked gubbed and waiting for the season to finish. Like you can see that we've all had teams like that ourselves. I know we were a bit like that when it was coming to the end with Stephen Naismith. We were like that when it was coming to the end with Robbie Nielsen, where you kind of know that it's run its course. Players aren't going to be here next season. Manager uncertainty. So I think you can see that in Celtic, and I think that Martin O'Neill's done well to keep them where they are, if I'm being honest, taking over, because that's on a knife edge. That can go one of two ways. That can easily, as you've seen with Nancy as well, when you only need, especially at Celtic and Rangers, you only need 1 to 2, even just bad performances. You can get a result but a bad performance, and it snowballs to it's all out panic stations. But I will also agree with Scott. If Wilfred Nancy is watching and wants to come back for the last, I'll get him a new wee tactics board, and I'll get him those Matalan Sambas that he was wearing, and he can get back in a dugout.
I remember all that. I think the first half against Rangers, that was the game where for 45 minutes Celtic played really, really well. Looked as though it was clicking into place. And then we fell to bits in the second half. Obviously, Rangers had a part to play in that. But, in terms of data, we've been talking about the success of data all season. Martin O'Neill, 81.5% of the points won. Wilfred Nancy, 33%. And that is it. That's all that matters. And when it comes down to these last 5 games, if we get 81.5% of the remaining points, I'll be quite happy with that. The Nancy thing, for me, was all style over substance. And you've got to find a balance. He couldn't find that balance. And also, he was thrown at the Wolves. He didn't realise the magnitude of this. And, by the end of the season, that might be a little bit unfair on him, because we will focus on the 33 days and all those points dropped. Whereas, actually, we should have just gone up to Tannadice and won a game a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, it cannot be style over substance. I'll take 5 1-0 wins, last-minute goals. I'll take all of that if it means that we're a success.
Well, speaking of managers, Liam, I've been hearing the Hearts manager had a few things to say about your appearance on the podcast last week.
Well, no, just in general. I got in trouble. For sounding... to be fair, it wasn't just manager getting in trouble. Everybody said that sounded so depressed last week. But it was funny because the stress has been, and this might sound strange to the other two boys, but the split is the split. Anything can happen. But to go 3 full rounds of fixtures and be top of the league is massive for Hearts. Like, it's such a huge achievement. And I know that there's loads of different narratives inside there, but Hearts can only do what Hearts can do. Hearts can only control themselves, and to be there from essentially, I think there's only 23 hours in the last 200 odd days that Hearts haven't been top of the league. So from a Hearts perspective, it's been unbelievable. And now obviously the split, it's, anything can happen in the split. There's going to be lots of twists and turns, but that was the sort of milestone that I'd been looking to, and the manager's been doing it all season as well. At the start he said it's just a good start, talk to me after the first round of fixtures, and then it's just a good start, talk to me after 2 rounds of fixtures, and then he'd said we play Celtic for top of the league after we play Celtic at Tynecastle, talk to me then, and then it was once we've been to Ibrox, make sure we're top of the league after that game, which we were, and then he said let's be top of the league at the split. So we've been kind of looking towards the split as the big milestone, to be like, it would be some achievement to get there and be top of the league and give ourselves a chance with 5 games where the edge there on, if we thought Rangers were under huge pressure on Sunday by the time they kicked off, when you look at how the fixtures are and the kick-off times and the days, the pressure is going to be astronomical over the next 5 games. So I'd been stressed and worried about getting to the split. That was my lifeline, my milestone. Get to the split, still top, and then we can reassess. So we're back in the bandwagon this week. So my pep talk for the manager. He's a good manager. He got me back in it. I'm back ready to go.
Well, here's a question then, because you, Liam, have said this before, and Derek McInnes has said before that he doesn't feel like anybody wants Hearts to win the league. You said this on the podcast a few weeks ago. Do you still feel that way? Is there still that feeling among Hearts supporters that you guys are kind of the ones nobody wants to win? Because I can think of 2 people who, if they don't win it, would probably want Hearts to win it, and they're sitting right here.
Yeah, well, they're in that strange situation where both Celtic and Rangers have said that relentlessly all season. If we don't win it, yous can win it. Is the happy medium. But you look at the video on Saturday when Motherwell scored at Tynecastle, they're celebrating and singing that we're going to win nothing, And then also in Aberdeen, there's Hibs are singing and Aberdeen are singing Hearts Are Falling Apart. And I joked on my own podcast that when Motherwell scored, the Tynecastle reception is so bad that all the texts that I sent everybody saying that the season was over and that we were done never sent to anybody. But I was lucky enough to get all the messages from Celtic and Rangers fans saying Hearts are falling apart again, and I got to be able to be like, let's rethink those statements. But I get it. Like, any competitive, we're against the two biggest clubs in Scotland, right? And they're huge institutions that don't just impact what happens on the pitch. You're like the decisions on Sundays and Saturdays and stuff. The refs, they're under huge pressure to make sure that they get it right. They're great teams. They've got massive fan bases. They've got hundreds of budgets, great facilities. So we're up against it, and any competitive edge that you can get into the players helps. And I think that actually, you know, your Charlie Mulgrews and the likes are just feeding that narrative to Derek McInnes, giving them little sound bites to try and G people up to be like, if you don't think that it's us against the world, look at the reaction of this guy and look at these comments and stuff. But I think that, you know, individuals will want Hearts to win the league 100%, but it is getting to funny stages now that we're in this split where I was talking to a Motherwell fan before the game, doesn't want Hearts to win the league, doesn't like Derek McInnes, doesn't like Tony Bloom, my Falkirk supporting friend. I suppose it's more a reflection of me as his friend was texting me saying how angry he was that they were 2-0 up because he doesn't want anything in the world other than Hearts to win the league. He doesn't want us to win it. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays in the next 5 games.
Interesting. Well, speaking of the next 5 games, Scott, after the result on Sunday, do you feel that Rangers can win all their remaining matches?
No, I don't think we will win all 5 matches. It would be great if we could, but I just don't think any of the 3 sides will do that. I think we'll remain unbeaten for the last 5 matches, but that's and I think we've only lost once in the league under Danny Rule, and if that, my belief about us being unbeaten for the rest of the season, we'll win enough matches across those 5 games to come out as league champions. That's what I think. I don't think winning 5 games would be great, but I just don't think it's feasible.
Do Liam or Paul, do either of you think Celtic or Hearts are going to win all their remaining games?
I think 4 out of 5 is, and I'm going to use the word realistic, and I'm being kind, but I think 4 out of 5. Celtic will have a problem, probably Easter Road or Fir Park. There's a massive story really developing around the fact that we've never beaten Hearts or Rangers in the league this season. We're going to have to do that. They'll be the 2 big ones at Celtic Park, and we need to make the difference there. I mean, the siege mentality that Liam's talking about there, that's natural. But by the way, I think that outside of Scottish football, everybody's up for Hearts winning the league. You know, that's the first question people ask you, isn't it interesting this season? You know, people love an underdog story and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if it's mind games on Derek McInnes' part. You can be successful and you don't have, you know, everybody doesn't have to like you. You don't have to be that likeable. So a lot of that is kind of like pantomime stuff. But the siege mentality is something that I think will work in Hearts' favour. Celtic won't win the next 5 games, but I think what will matter and what will be important is the one game they don't win, what happens in that game? Is it a draw? Because every single point is going to be massive. The Hearts v Rangers game is going to be huge, Hearts Hibs. So, you know, let's meet up every single week and we'll see who is feeling good and who's a little bit crabby. I mean, Liam's quite chirpy this morning, but that can change. That can change quickly.
We saw it last week, how quickly that can change.
It does change very quickly, believe me. I'm the same as well. I've said from a Hearts perspective that the Edinburgh Derby for me, it's the first game of the fixtures, and it's such a momentum builder because I think that that's probably a game in the calendar that Celtic and Rangers will look at and say that's going to be a very difficult game for Hearts, and we've already lost there this season. You lose that, then you're joint with Celtic on the same points, and you're a point or 2 points behind Rangers if everybody wins their games and you lose yours, which is such a huge, you know, mentality thing going into now. There's only 4 games left, whereas if Hearts win that match, next game's at Tynecastle. We were unbeaten since Dundee beat us 12 months ago. We're unbeaten at home. We've got such a good record at home. So you're looking there to say that then the Hearts Rangers game becomes absolutely massive, because whatever happens in that game, the next game after that is Celtic versus Rangers. So, the connotations of just not just looking after your own games, but then the game that follows you for Celtic and Rangers becomes massive. So I'm the same. I don't see a team winning all 5 just purely because the teams that you're playing against as well. And the story that isn't talked about in all this is the 3 teams below us can all catch each other, and depending on what happens in the weekend with the Cup, there's European places and stuff. So they're not going to just give up because of an alliance that does or doesn't exist to one or two of the clubs. They're going to be out to try and win as much as they can so that they can put themselves in the best position for Europe. So if any team wins 5 out of 5, then they'll win the title. But I can't see any 3 of us going 5 wins on the bounce.
Right. Well, let's end on our quick fire questions, because that is one of the questions. So try and keep it as short as possible. I'll go Scott, Paul, then Liam. First up, this is kind of the question that I've just asked you, but how many post-split games will your team win, Scott?
3 wins for Rangers.
Paul?
I'm going to say 4 for Celtic. It's maybe, something that I'll come back to haunt me, but I'm going to say 4.
I'm also said 3. And I think 3 wins for Hearts will do it.
How many points, Scott, will it take to win the league, do you think?
I think Rangers will get 11 points across the last 5 games, and I think 80 points. That takes us to 80 points, and that'll win the league.
Paul?
That's interesting, because I've calculated 80 points for Celtic, but we will not win the league based on goal difference if Scott's right. So that's how tight it's going to be.
Liam?
In my calculations, since we got the Casio out this morning, 81 points. 81 points, I think, is the one that Hearts have to try and get to, because the other 2 have to win more games, and also, like I said, they have to score loads and loads of goals. So 81 is the number for Hearts, the target.
Right. Well, then, how many points will your team reach, Scott? I mean, you can just kind of answer this.
Yeah, 80 points. That's my 3 wins, 2 draws. 3 wins, 2 draws. That's what I'm expecting. I don't know where the 2 draws will be. I think a lot of Rangers fans think it'll be the games against Hearts and Celtic. But as Liam says, the other teams are playing for things. There might be drop points against a Motherwell or a Hibs or whatever. But 80 points. That's that's my 100% confident prediction.
Paul, what about Celtic?
I'm going to stick to 80 points, which, when you look at the last 4 seasons previous to this, it's quite a low bar. 92, 93, even as much as 99 is what Celtic have won in the 4 in a row run. So 80 will be pretty low. But going by what Liam says, we'll come second with 80 points. That's what I reckon we'll get, though.
Liam?
81.
When do you think your team will win the league, Scott?
Unfortunately, I think unfortunately or fortunately, whatever way you want to look at it, winning the league's the most important thing, but I think it'll be the final day. I think we spoke about Helicopter Saturday last week, and I don't see anything changing. Final day nerves at Falkirk, unfortunately.
Paul?
Definitely final day. There has been contact made with Albert Kidd in Australia to fly him over to Celtic Park, so hopefully he will make it on time.
And hopefully I'll have a brilliant day watching Hearts lift the trophy, because we'll win it against Falkirk the game before.
Right, and finally, if your team doesn't win the league, who do you think will win the league, Scott?
I think Hearts. I just can't see Celtic doing what Paul says. I just don't think they'll win enough matches. So I think it'll be Hearts if Rangers come up short.
Well, I mean, I'll say Hearts, but that's my heart ruling my head. But I'm definitely going to stick with that.
Liam?
I think Rangers, because I think that Celtic have got the potential to win enough games, but their goal difference is going to be the differentiator as well as well as the head-to-heads as well. So I think that they could potentially win and pick up enough points, but I think that goal difference is too much to bridge between now and the end of the season. So I'll say Rangers.
Right, nice one. This will be interesting to look back on come the end of the season when we actually
I'll
know
never watch this again if Hearts don't win it. Never speak to any ever
You'll
again.
be in a cave hiding away until the new season. Right, well, that is all we've got time for. Many thanks to Paul, Scott, Liam, and thank you for listening. Remember, we are here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day. So make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll catch you again tomorrow.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.